Welcome to Cordkillers. The world of entertainment is turned upside down, and we're just trying to find out how to watch what we want, where we want, whenever we want. I'm Tom Merritt. Brian, where's the good stuff? Did you find it?
I left it back on vacation all the way back in Georgia.
How is Georgia?
We stayed in the salt marshes, which is astonishing because it feels like when you look out there, on the one hand, you can't get into the water because it's like several miles to, the ocean. But when you look out, it's I'd never seen anything like it. It looks like the Rocky Sea. It's incredible.
Did you get kicked out of your hotel? That's what staying in the salt marshes sounds like. Like we just walked out into the marshes, laid down.
It was a family reunion. But I did out in the marshes get to see a lot of alligators and a couple of wild dolphins. Yeah,
that's very cool. Well, maybe a little more of that in After Talk. I'm going to start saying maybe when we promise After Talk, just to be safe. But definitely, we're going to go on a supply run.
Supply run.
Up called All I Do Is Scroll Netflix Forever. It's the Wired advice columnist answering questions, and one of them is about streaming. The advice is kind of tongue-in-cheek, sort of winds up as an indictment of the quality of content, and implores people to make content of their own, which is fair enough. But streaming Indecision, I think, is real. We hear from y'all all the time. Would you call it a problem, Brian, that people are, unable to decide on what to watch on their streaming service of choice?
Well, I do think it's a problem when there are multiple people, for sure, because there's always this negotiation about how much time everyone has and what people are into and what you've already seen and what you want to share. And I'm speaking from at least my family perspective. It's like we all know we want to watch something, but we can't decide on what we want to continue and so on. So that kind of indecision is rarely a joy, but the idle scrolling, when it takes you an hour to find something, and that's what the letter writer in this advice question was asking, was, well, I spent an hour looking at movies, trying to pick one. Does that count as I had a good time? And,
yeah, is that worth my subscription?
And the answer from the advice columnist was pretty much yes, because none of those movies that you did not watch will disappoint you. They will be fantasy movies, and the comparison is made to the Zillow homes that you will never have to clean, but you can fantasize about having, or the dating apps after you already have somebody you're committed to. That's less of a problem, I think. I mean, you're the one deciding to sit there and not make a decision, but on the flip side, Tom, I feel like the thing they want is like, just go feed me something. And Netflix did have the surprise me button for a little bit during COVID, and then they took it away due to, quote, lack of views.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned previously on this program, I feel like functionally they replaced it with what this is the mirror image of this exact same problem, which is just like this guy's annoyed that he can't pick something and he has to scroll forever. Other people are annoyed by the fact that the moment you go to Netflix, it just starts blasting you with a random scene from a random movie or TV show. And they hate that. I'm using air quotes because there are a number of shows that I'm like, well, hold on, that looked pretty good. And then, by force feeding just a little bit, I'd hate to say it, but while it sort of splits the baby in half and makes everybody annoyed, but also it gives everybody what they want, I think.
Yeah, we've all heard of the trolley problem. This is the trailer problem. People complain that they don't like commercials, call trailers commercials, don't want to be forced to watch a commercial in their Netflix, right? And that is something that is an opt-out versus opt-in problem. Like, I didn't ask for this and you're forcing it to play, but also trailers are content. Trailers are things people seek out. Whole websites and apps have been devoted just to showing you trailers. Whole blogs are devoted to letting you know that there's a new trailer. So quite obviously we love trailers. It's a matter of proper place, proper time. But the balance is, like, if you don't have them autoplay, you won't know to watch some of them that you might have liked.
Well, and there are many proxies that try to approximate the cable TV experience that we had when we were growing up. And for example, I actually hesitate to even call them trailers because they're not. Very rarely are they trailers on Netflix. Almost always they just drop you into a scene. Now, like for example, I could tell you how good The King of Polka or The Polka King starring Jack Black is, and all you know is it's called Polka King Jack Black. That's very different from suddenly being dropped into suddenly seeing him portray Jan Devon and having a conversation with, Jason Schwartzman. And you're like, well, I didn't know this is what it is.
Yeah.
And
these are who's in there. Yeah.
Likewise, the doggone it, I had a second take on. Let's talk about proxies for old school experiences. This is the exact same, that phenomenon on Netflix of them dropping in you into a random part of the movie. We already knew from the analog cable days where those of you who grew up and are younger than me, like in the 90s, you had digital cable, which meant channel up meant 1000 to 1000, then programming showed up. You could not channel surf like you could in the old days. So with analog cable, it was remarkable. As fast as you could hit the button, you were suddenly having new content. Now that meant you were oftentimes jumping in the middle of stuff, and that's why I know the end of many more movies than the beginnings, because almost always I would never see the beginning. I would just be all like, "Oh, this is that James Bond thing," and then watch the rest of it. And likewise, this is the reason everybody loves YouTube Shorts and TikTok, is because there was a gap of 20 years where not everybody had the channel flipping experience, where you're suddenly just jumping in the middle of everything as fast as you feel like going, like dumb. Wait, no, go back. What was that?
Yeah.
All that is an approximation for that.
Okay, let me walk you through this, because it's going to get back to this point about the channel surfing in a second. But I tend to avoid the choice paralysis by choosing what I want to watch outside the app. That's something that the platforms hate, right? They want me to be in the app scrolling around so that they can, use their promotional messages to get me involved in whatever it is that they want to get me involved, with the hopes that that will engage me and keep me in the app. So I use the Apple TV function that says, hey, a new episode of that thing you watch, The Boys premiered. And I'm like, oh, right, The Boys is out. Great. Okay. It's up there in the row. I don't go into Amazon Prime Video to do that. I have a Just Watch app where I track things, and when the new episode comes out, it tells me. So that's a little bit, I guess, of an answer to like, hey, if you have choice paralysis, here's what I do to try to avoid it. But where I run into it, and this brings it back around to your point, Brian, is on YouTube. I go to that top row, that algorithmic recommended row, and I sit there and I'm like, yeah, I do want to watch that, but that's too long. I already watched that on Eileen's channel earlier. I wish there was a way to tell it that. That one looks interesting, but hold on, let me see what the next one. And I just go through that recommended row, boom, 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 until I see something short. And then as soon as I see something short, I'm like, well, that one's only 50 seconds. Yeah, let me check that out and see what it's about.
Well, and then at that point, you get kind of a re-roll on what's recommended afterwards. And last time I paid attention to it, I'll have to bone up on this, but I believe the YouTube recommended algorithm is, as far as what it displays on the side, is shockingly simple. It's 1/3 stuff you've already seen and might want to watch again, 1/3 trying out stuff to see if you want to bite on it, 1/3 new things from things it knows you're gonna like. And once you kind of see that, you notice it all the time. But again, even one last note as far as approximating our youth. Even Twitch, I didn't understand for the longest time. Who wants to watch somebody else play a video game? And then somebody pointed out that when I grew up as a kid, did you have the controls all the time? No, most of the time you were sitting on the couch with a cool kid and they had the controls. And that's that. Once I understood all these approximations of archetypal experiences, it made more sense.
Yeah. The whole watching the video game thing is fascinating, because there are people who are like, why do you want to watch video games? And the video game people explain what you explained, and well, you pick up tips and all of this stuff. And then the video game people sometimes, not always, say, why would you watch sports? So it's like, well, same reason. You're watching somebody else, sometimes somebody else much better than I would ever be, do a thing. And it's entertaining to watch people do things. That's just us as humans, which actually, now that I think about it, might explain a little bit of the choice paralysis when you have the auto playing trailers, because you're getting to sample something as if someone else is watching it, maybe a little bit, and then goes back to what you were talking about with the channel flipping, right?
Yeah, well, and so as far as this is one, and we'll talk about this more later, but send us your hot takes on this at cordkillers@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Because this is a perennial favorite that we could all argue about. So if you had to give one up, or which one afflicts you more? Annoyance with the dropping you right into the movie experience when you load the Netflix page, or the scrolling forever and trying to figure out what it is you want experience? Yeah. Or have you solved it like Tom has by making sure that you meditate and ring a bell 5 times and chant, and then declare that you will watch Ted Lasso season 3 before you even turn on the television?
Yeah, I forgot about the meditation and the bell ring. Thank you for reminding listeners about that. I think the solution to choice paralysis is at odds with the motivations of the platforms, and I'm going to be interested to see how or if that gets resolved. If you were designing this just for people who like, it's too much choice, you would say, oh, well, we know what you watch on our platform, so we can only show you 3 items at any time, and use that YouTube algorithm. You know, one we know you watch, one we think you would like based on your past performance, and one new one just to kind of shake things up. I think that would work great for the choice paralysis, but the platforms would lose engagement, right? Because they're like, no, but we want to promote things. We want to show you endless choice. We want you to feel like you're getting your money's worth. So I don't know if they ever resolve that.
Well, and what you want is, before people set foot inside, you want to have no choice paralysis. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to decide between Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and all that stuff. You want, it's a very simple choice. Do you want to Netflix? It's kind of like going to a Chinese buffet, right? It's like, I want Chinese food. That's a one note question.
Yeah, easy, done.
You're here,
decision
and now
made.
Here. Then door opens, and it's like you decide on a drink, and then after that, it's like, all right, good luck, kid, go for it.
Yeah, because we got wontons, we got fried rice, we got mugugu head pan. Like, yeah, I think there's another issue that this shines a light on that I hadn't thought about before either, which is we think of these services as channels. And when I say we, I actually mean me and you, Brian, and probably a lot of people in the audience. But we think of like, oh, there's the Max channel that has Hacks, and there's the Hulu channel that has Handmaid's Tale, and the Prime channel
programming.
Yeah, the platforms think of themselves as the place. They're like, we just want you to live here. We would rather you not go anywhere else if possible. We understand you're going to sometimes, but we want to make it really compelling to stay here. And that's not how most people are going to see these platforms.
I was about to say, I can't see much of a way to get around the channel-based thinking.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. And you know what? That's another question. Cordkillers@gmail.com. If you guys see a way that you could possibly go an entire day just in the Hulu Disney environment.
Yeah.
Like that's not, even as I'm saying it, that sounds preposterous. I have gone entire days just within the YouTube environment. And especially now that YouTube is doing more live sports programming and stuff, I could picture like that could be a place.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie.
Like a place now that I think about it.
There's a couple of channels, including Sportsnet LA, that YouTube TV doesn't have, but I've been tempted every once in a while to be like, well, I spend so much time in YouTube. Kind of would be easier if all my channels and my live stuff were over there too.
Well, and that's we could talk about this, but like YouTube might as well write a press release about what they want content creators to do. It's so funny when people ask how do you succeed at YouTube? It's like they literally, if YouTube has a tab for it, then that's what they want you to do. If they have a tab that says posts, you know what they want you to do? Post. They want to be your Twitter. If they have the tab that says live, they'd like you to be, they'd like you to use them like Twitch. Anyway, that's a whole rabbit hole that we could chase another day.
Yeah. All kinds of rabbits are chased on After Talk, which is available only to the patrons. So if you would like to hear those rabbits and Spoiler in Time, we talk about Spoiler in Time. In fact, patrons got a special episode of Spoiler in Time. We called it Midi-chlorians because it was just Amos and I talking about True Detective earlier this week. You got to check out patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Heck, well, don't just check it out. Give us some cash. Just a buck an episode.
I'm sorry, I meant check out at patreon.com. Ching ching.
Yeah, you get early access to stuff and exclusive access to all the behind the scenes chit chat.
Yeah, and if you are a patron, you're like, wait, I didn't see that Midi-chlorians thing. We did make it a tiered thing. This was Amos's idea. So if you are at the $1 tier or above, you got it. If you're somebody who's still pledging 20 cents or whatever, we love that. Keep it up. That's great. But it was Amos's idea to be like, this one's just for the tiered folks, because technically we lose money on anything that's less than $1 because of fees and everything. So we appreciate the support. But, you know, we kind of rather have it be.
Yeah, all of that sub-dollar. If you are a sub-dollar person, number one, that means you are old school because they haven't allowed you to pledge for less than $1 in a very long time. And we appreciate your long-standing support. Maybe consider going full volume. I say $1.
Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's move on to the search party. Find some stuff. So, Brian, I don't know if you have a tradition of watching the hot dog eating contest on July 4th.
I've only caught it once, and I think it was I think it was at Nerdtacular. It just happened.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But you know about it, like on July 4th.
Sure. I know how the whole game got changed when I don't know if it was Kobayashi or Joey Chestnut was the one to figure out that you could just dunk the buns in water.
Yeah, and just slurp them down. It's not a thing that I've watched, with a dedicated way every year, but it's certainly something I'm also aware of. Takeru Kobayashi was the champion hot dog eater for years. Joey Chestnut has recently been the champion. But Joey Chestnut did something that Nathan's, the sponsor of the hot dog eating contest, could not forgive. Joey Chestnut took a sponsorship with a plant-based hot dog company, Brian.
Yeah, vegan hot dog company. Now, I don't know. This is the part because I didn't actually follow this story, but you may know. I don't know if he was just barred from competing because of the sponsorship, or if he asked, "Hey, my sponsorship says I can only eat these kind of hot dogs. Can I eat these hot dogs?"
I think it's the first. I need to dive into it a little more, but I know Nathan said we're very disappointed that he took this sponsorship and he will not be able to participate in our contest. I assume it wasn't because he required plant-based dogs. It was because, hey, we're Nathan's hot dogs and he's got a competing sponsor, and that competing sponsor is not only competing with Nathan's but actually plant-based, and Nathan's is not plant-based, and there's a lot of enmity in the meat industry apparently about real meat makers versus plant-based meat makers. So they kicked Joey Chestnut, the champion, out of the July 4th hot dog eating contest. So Netflix said, we see an opportunity, and they are going to bring Takeru Kobayashi out of retirement to do basically, like the Mike Tyson fight, but for hot dogs, one-on-one, Kobayashi versus Chestnut. The only problem with this as counter programming, but it's not a problem for Nathan's, is that it won't take place till September 2nd. So it'll be a Labor Day thing in the U.S., but not exactly head-to-head with Nathan's contest.
To be honest, I think that, number one, that's partly, I assume, because it takes some time to organize all of this stuff. And
yeah, probably.
Things emerged rapidly. Number two, it might become bad publicity, bad blood with Nathan's. Number 3, I think, is the most likely, which is if I were Netflix, I would want to not counter program directly with 2 people in a one-off. I might want to expand the art of competitive food eating and show specifically the Nathan Hot Dog Company how good you are at representing these kind of events. And wouldn't it be neat if it was a special, if the Nathan's one was a special one next year?
Yeah. Because I don't know how much ESPN pays for the hot dog eating contest live rights.
I wouldn't be surprised if Nathan's paid them. It's a pretty good ad.
So Netflix is like, we do ads. we can handle that. We do live. We're doing the NFL. We can do a hot dog contest. Come on, let's make this happen. That's a really smart thought there. Also love Paolo DLR calling it they should call it the Chestnut Maru. The no-win scenario.
One more thing. This is another case of, much like the Tyson fight, this is them getting their sea legs stronger and stronger when it comes to in the moment live. It matters. Every one of these reps that they're doing at the gymnasium of making sure they don't collapse under live stream pressure gets them closer and closer to being able to say, hey, the Super Bowl should be live streamed. We have the most robust live streaming system on the planet.
For sure. All right. The search party is all about finding things out there to watch. There's one. Also, new Paddington movie coming. Paddington in Peru is the name. Did you watch the trailer, Brian?
Yes, I did. And it's boy, they got magic. I don't know how. For all I care, the Paddington factory can actually just be torturing children, collecting their tears, and then using it as rocket fuel to create the pure magic that is the Paddington movies. But this third installation looks like they still got it, and now we're going on the road. I can't wait. It's adorable.
It is wonderful to me that Paddington is one of the highest rated movies of the past 20 years. Both of them, number 1 and number 2. I see nothing in this trailer to dissuade me that they won't have a massive hit again. It looks delightful. It's Paddington going back to Peru to meet his family and introduce his new English family to them. The only thing that disappoints me, Brian, is that this debuts in the UK 2 months before it comes to the United States. November 8th in the UK, January 17th in the US.
Time to take the channel, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. There's also when Winnie the Pooh hit public domain, we got the Winnie the Pooh horror movie. Steamboat Willie, the original appearance of Mickey Mouse, hit public domain. And now the Steamboat Willie horror movie, Screamboat, has cast David Howard Thornton as Mickey Mouse. Screamboat follows a group of New Yorkers on a late-night ferry ride that turns deadly when a mischievous mouse begins a rampage targeting unsuspecting passengers. The unlikely crew must band together to thwart the murderous menace before their relaxing commute turns into a nightmare.
Yes, low effort. Yes, obvious low-hanging fruit. Yes, get over it. This is what's going to happen. First, it's going to be this, and it's going to be Minnie Mouse. Then it's going to be Donald Duck. Then it's going to be like that's fine. I would rather buckle up for these gross low budget or I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be a masterpiece. Maybe it'll win an Oscar. But I'd rather buckle up for this as being a regular thing as IPs become available than to have the Disney Corporation have a stranglehold on everything forever and ever and ever.
Yeah. I am not unfamiliar with David Howard Thornton. If you can explain to me his star power, apparently he's the jokester in Terrifier, which I also haven't seen. So a lot of people seem really excited that he was the guy. It was more like, ooh, they got a name. So cordkillers@gmail.com if you got some comments on the star power that is David Howard Thornton. House of the Dragon returned this weekend. That's the Game of Thrones successor series, I guess. It is also been renewed for season 3 by HBO. So they're doing the thing where they renew it for the next season right as the new one premieres. The viewership wasn't huge. It was down from last season. I watched the first episode though, and I was like, oh yeah, this is better. This feels more like Game of Thrones. This is right into the manipulations and strategies and the house against house stuff that I was looking for, that it took a while to get to in season 1.
Is it so much better that you would recommend somebody who's, been sitting on the sidelines to jump in on the second season?
So you never watched season 1?
No, I didn't.
You didn't. Maybe. I feel like you could do fine watching a recap on YouTube, and just be like, okay, that's the story. Because I liked this first episode. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, best television ever. You're missing out if you don't see it. But yeah, I think you'll get a little of that Game of Thrones fix out of this, more so than you did percentage wise in season 1, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Peacemaker is in production for season 2 and has added Tim Meadows to play Langston Fleury. And also, if you like Superbad's Greg Mottola will be directing a few episodes.
Man, I don't know nothing about Langston Fleury, but I know that I love Tim Meadows and everything that he's ever done ever. I don't think I've ever seen Tim Meadows and not had my day be made just a little bit happier.
Yeah, Tim Meadows is a national treasure. I'll say that. Langston Fleury, I forgot that you're the Marvel guy, and we're talking DC when we talk Peacemaker.
Which, to be honest, I know you're Googling it right now. To be honest, that's actually one of the things I rather enjoy about Peacemaker, is that I don't have to try to decode what I'm seeing and see if it matches what I remember from, my expansive Marvel memories.
He's an agent of Argus is all I'm able to find in the small time I gave to it, because most of the search results are telling me that Tim Meadows has been cast as Langston Fleury, which I already knew.
This also might be one of those clever things where it's like they just give us a name of the person and then he turns out to be, oh, that's that character, that kind of thing.
Totally. Netflix is also given some sneak peeks at some of their series at the Annecy Showcase, and one of it was Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. The return of the Penguin villain Feathers McGraw is in the cards.
So I'm sorry if there was a trailer, I missed it.
No, there's not. It's just okay. That is just the. I mean, if you were at the showcase, then I guess you saw something, but there's nothing online to see.
Yeah, man, Wallace and Gromit. That's the real ones. Remember all the way back to the early days. Like I don't think it was ever in Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Animation Festival, but I remember like seeing them, seeing the shorts in movie theaters back in the early 90s.
All right, let's get into the buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Indeed. This is where we talk about some things we've found that might be fun for you to watch. Brian, I know you're on a trip. Did you get a chance to watch anything during that trip?
One of the things that's wonderful about going on vacation is first of all, it's not as relaxing as you'd think when you're the dad of a family of 5 and you have a lot of people that you have to keep happy at all times.
Oh no, it sounds like a sleepwalk. Like no problems at all. Yeah.
We drove 2,500 miles, but that means that you find yourself at hotels, and it's like you just need something on the TV for the 11-year-old. Or so we turned on, and 2 years ago, I think I mentioned we went to on one trip, and we found Big City Greens on Disney Channel. This year we discovered Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which was really fun because I've used those cards in playing Marvel Snap, never knew what the IP was. And then it turns out it's a very cute, very fun, very punchy show. And it does tie into all of the Marvel stuff. And I look forward to my children watching it and me pretending to not watch it over their shoulders.
Okay, so that's going to play into a story a little later, but tie-ins that you get exposed to because you're into one part, but you didn't know about another part, really do work, because you got more excited about that than you would have otherwise. You would have been like, I don't know what this is, but sure, watch it.
Right. And then the other thing that happened was it just so happened that day one of our vacation was the second to last game, or I don't know, whatever. It was near the end of the NBA finals. And I was like, oh, 3-0, this could be it. Anyway, saw that. And then I cared about sports for a week, Tom. Then I went to the reunion and everybody was watching the FSU game. So I watch 2 games of baseball and 2 games of basketball, and it's fun when you have just even the tiniest reason to care.
Yeah.
And you know the rules.
A lot of sports watching is communal, right? A lot of the fun of it is communal. And yes, Dan33, we are live. I can see your chats right now. I just wanted to, clear that up.
Yeah.
For that. But yeah, that's going to play into a story a little later as well. The idea that bringing people together makes the live whatever you're watching. It goes to what you were saying earlier about watching people play video games too. If you've got a bunch of people watching, it's even more fun.
So what about you, Tom? Yeah, I did you were the canary in the coal mine.
Okay, so I'm going to give an update on Star Wars: The Acolyte. The third episode came out, and the third episode proved divisive amongst the Star Wars errati out there. I watched it and liked it. I was like, oh, okay, so we're getting a flashback. That does slow things down a little, but it's an interesting backstory to our main characters. It kind of broadens the world. I feel like, and this is only mildly spoilery. It's going to sound more spoilery than it is because it's just my theory, and I haven't investigated Reddit to see if anybody else shares it, but I feel like we got a little like, oh, I bet the Night Sisters came out of that possibly. We also got a lot of moral ambiguity in this episode of like, well, the Jedi aren't bad, but they aren't always good. And these guys, appear to be bad to the Jedi, but maybe they're not bad. And, that's the kind of thing that makes a story more interesting when it's not clearly set lines. But I also didn't take it as, oh, we're making the Jedi the bad guys because they're in charge. I took it as like, those lines are blurry. A lot of other folks hated it. A lot of other folks said, "That's it. I'm quitting watching The Acolyte. This story is trash. They're not true to the lore of the Force." Because we had a community of witches who were describing the Force in a different way, and they're like that just ruins the lore, and I'm out of here. And sometimes I would just be dismissive of those, but it came from some folks in our community that I'm like, oh no, this is a perfectly reasonable person. This isn't just somebody trying to spew hate on the internet, and they were really turned off by it.
This is where we have Christianity splitting into Protestantism splits into Methodists and
schism,
Presbyterians, and because like I don't know, like I refuse to accept midi-chlorians. To me, I believe more in the canon of Knights of the Old Republic.
Have you accepted midi-chlorians as your personal savior?
Yeah, but it's like there are these structures, and bless their hearts, Disney's pretending like they're going to be able to unify things. Like I guess I'm a Unitarian in Star Wars because I still believe all of the expanded universe stuff over some of the official canon.
Yeah. And ATL John Boy is expressing the opinion that I saw a lot of folks, again, a lot of folks who I think are, being honest and not just trying to spread outrage. ATL John Boy says, are we learning more about the franchise or just being told we were wrong? I may be deficient in my knowledge of the Force, but I didn't look at it as we were being told we were wrong. But a lot of people took it that way and said, oh, no, they contradicted things. So, maybe I just need to pay closer attention to the lore. But I felt like, oh, we're just seeing different perspectives on the same thing.
Well, so here's the thing. When it comes to the MCU, it was a noble thing to try to keep everything unified or whatever. I don't understand for the life of me why they would want to even attempt to do that with Star Wars, because it all begins with one phrase: a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which means everything could contradict everything. We're talking Greek gods here. Yeah, maybe Athena came out of Zeus's forehead, maybe out of his thigh. Here's a story representing it both ways.
Yeah, and I didn't take I'm trying to skirt spoilers here, but I didn't take the witch's perspective as fact either. I'm like, oh, that's just your opinion, witches. Like, that doesn't mean you're right. You could still get the same effect and be wrong about the cause. I don't know. I found it really interesting, and I'm still into it, but I know a lot of people have been turned off by it. I have not watched this week's episode yet, which brings us back to the current timeline of the story, which is, again, is still 100 years before the events of the prequels, and I find that incredibly relaxing. We're just having, Jedi and adventures, and they're unrelated in any way to anything else that you have to know. So I think that's good. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Brian, what you got going on these days?
Oh, you know what? We're actually getting ready to do a flash sale. If you're not on the email list, that's usually where I tell people, hey, how can I put it? One of our favorite items in the store, we got some that are like 95%, 99. They're actually totally perfect. They're just a slightly wrong color. And we have such exacting standards on this thing that I can't even release them publicly. So only people on the email list, if you go to gimme.scamstuff.com, it'll say you're signing up to win a free Jeep drop or whatever. But by next week, you'll be on the email list, and you'll get to know what the secret thing is that is 100% fine. It's just a slightly wrong color, so I can't officially say it's this product. Boy, that was a long way to go. Yeah. That's a mystery, my friends.
Man, I can't wait to buy this blue Soviet Union flag you're selling.
It's like maroon instead of red.
So it's not even that far off.
Our standards are.
Fantastic. Go check that out, folks, while we scan the horizon.
Send a scanning to avoid.
Scanning the horizon!
In 2025, that is a mere year and change left from now, Netflix is going to open 2 Netflix House locations, one in the Galleria in Dallas, Texas, and the other at the King of Prussia Mall in suburban Pennsylvania, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. If you've ever been to a Netflix pop-up, maybe you went to the Bridgerton one or a Stranger Things one, imagine a permanent collection of those housed in a former department store. Each location has more than 100,000 square feet of space, so you can have a lot of them, not just one. And the idea is to fill that space with shopping, dining, and these experiences related to Netflix shows like Bridgerton, Money Heist, Stranger Things, Squid Game, and more. Netflix says, we're not trying to turn a profit on these, although I'm sure they wouldn't mind, but they are doing them to keep fans engaged in the brands that they have, possibly expose them to other brands. If they come for the Bridgerton, they might stay for the Stranger Things. Netflix does try to paint a picture. They didn't give a lot of specifics about what they're going to do, but Brian, let me read their description of these Netflix house experiences, okay?
Sure.
Imagine waltzing with your partner to an orchestral cover of a Taylor Swift song on a replica of the Bridgerton set, and then walking around the corner to compete in the Glass Bridge Challenge from Squid Game.
You know that,
and then presumably you can go eat food named after Netflix shows or something and buy some merch.
You know that thing that Apple sometimes does, where like they pretend like they just invented something that everybody else has been doing for a long time.
It's called email. Exactly. We know you're gonna love it.
Right, exactly. This is a theme park, Tom. Netflix is
it's a small theme park, right? Like it's a department store size theme park, but it's basically a theme park. Yeah. There's no roller coaster in it, but otherwise, yeah.
I mean, well, and again, like roller coasters didn't become synonymous with theme parks until, especially, if you watch a lot of the documentaries on Defunct Land, you find out that originally it was just like shows and interesting spaces. Like exactly this. These are the early days of theme parks.
The inspiration, supposedly, legendarily, I don't know if it's actually true, but the legend is that the inspiration for Disneyland was Children's Fairyland in downtown Oakland. And Children's Fairyland is just that. It's just experiences, toadstools and stuff. It's not roller coasters, etc.
And to be honest, it also sounds, we're seeing they have brand value, and in terms of size, this sounds like roughly equivalent to Meow Wolf's art installations with like Omega Mart and that kind of thing. And those are cool. You get a good 2 or 3 hours of walking around storytelling experience, and as long as they write enough story into it, I think these can be really great. They'll have a bit of a push. I wonder. I mean, I'm certain more people know what a Netflix is, or a Stranger Things, or a Bridgerton, or a Squid Game than a Meow Wolf Omega Mart. And if Meow Wolf's Omega Mart can be one of my favorite things I've ever done in Las Vegas, then no reason this can't be absolutely extraordinary and a bit more popular.
I have a feeling this will do well to begin, because I've been to a few of these Netflix experiences and they do them well. So if they're using the same people and the same DNA, and they're like, instead of doing it in a pop-up location for a month, do it in our department store location for a month, because they do say they're going to change these out. Then you're using existing talent and existing experience, and they can make these really, really good. The problem will be keeping it going. Like, how long do you think this thing lasts? Or does it close down after a year and move somewhere else to kind of freshen it up?
Well, I'm going to guess. So I would say their biggest franchises. Okay, so let me postulate this. You do the Stranger Things set, and now in this case, Stranger Things. I don't know if we're expecting more seasons of that anytime soon, but maybe Squid Game would be a better one. You do the Squid Game thing, and then it plays out, and everything is okay. Well, that was fun. I've already done the Squid Game experience, but then you're able to do a complete story refresh for season 2. This is what they do over at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando. Is based on the new franchises. There's a lot of the same equipment that you see year after year, but the stories are always new and refreshed, and stories can be written year after year and constantly be renewed, and you could go get a new experience concurrent with each season of something.
Yeah, this all fits in with my increasing belief that everything is around fandoms right now. And that includes politics, but in this case, it's Netflix. And what Netflix is acknowledging is people aren't a fan of Netflix or a Netflix show. They're a fan of Bridgerton. Right. And so they watch Bridgerton when we have new Bridgerton, and then they wait for the next Bridgerton. What successful fandoms do is keep their fans interested all the time with other things. And one of the things I'm thinking about is the reason that we got a new Mario movie is because we kept getting Mario games, and that kept the fandom for Mario alive, and then reignited fandom in younger viewers who weren't familiar with previous failed efforts for Mario. So they're like, let's bring him a new movie. And you see lots of fandoms doing that. There's talk of doing Stranger Things spinoffs, but what you want to do is keep Stranger Things appetite up, right? And this is one of the things. Games are another thing that Netflix is doing to do that. So I think yeah, you want to bring people in and say, hey, we're going to satisfy your fandom. You'll get a lot of people who just come for the Stranger Things and then leave, just come for the Bridgerton thing and then leave, but you'll also expose some people to other stuff that they might not have done when they were doing their, choice paralysis scroll before. And so that will help bring them in. I don't know. I think this is smart. I think it'll work. My only question is the one I mentioned earlier. I know someone mentioned Casa Bonita.
That's an excellent analog. Casa Bonita, if you're not familiar, is a place in Colorado that is that middle ground. Like, is it just a Mexican restaurant or is this a theme park? It's really great.
And it's a great example of when it opened, it was amazing. And it was like, is this a theme park or a restaurant? And then the legend continued, but over the years, they stopped doing the cliff diving and things got kind of shoddy, and the food was never that great because you weren't there for the food anyway. And then it became kind of run down. And then the South Park guys bought it and they refurbed it, and now it's great again. So it's hard to keep those things in polish, I guess.
Did I ever tell you that when I was in second grade, I went to Casa Bonita?
I don't know if you told me that before.
Yeah, I lived outside of Littleton, Colorado at the time. So seeing it show up in the South Park episode, I was like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one.
Oh yeah, that's a great example. The Casa Netflix. I don't know if I want to go to the Money Heist restaurant though.
I don't know that reference. I haven't seen it.
Oh no, Money Heist is one of the Netflix shows. Casa de Papel. Did you?
Yeah.
It's about robbers getting trapped in a vault while they're trying to rob it.
Oh, okay. All right. They extract all of your money.
Yeah, they don't eat well, is what I'm saying. All right, we got a couple other things here. Magid found that predictive rates of churn, which is just a fancy way of saying how many people are canceling their subscriptions, is lower, down to 16% because of bundles. So we're just kind of checking in on the fact that we talked about how they're trying to stop you from canceling your subscriptions by bundling things in so that, well, even if you're not watching something on Hulu, you are watching something on Disney Plus, and then you don't cancel the whole bundle. And it has boosted customer intent to keep subscriptions longer than 6 months by 15%.
That is one of those things where everybody howled as though they were being stabbed when they offered more value for your money. It's like, cable's back. It's the end of everything. And it's like, look, man, the actions don't lie. It seems like, a lot of people like it. Okay. And I know past Brian from 10 years ago would be screaming at current Brian for putting it this way, but we'll see. I ain't got a dog in this fight.
Yeah. Amazon reporting that its NFL viewing was up 24% this last season on Prime Video, and talking about how those community watching for things like the NFL are also music events. They say live events in music, we're thinking like Beyonce, Taylor Swift, etc., is equally booming right now. And Amazon Music is working on what they called front row experiences for streaming to enjoy artists like Ed Sheeran and Kendrick Lamar.
That all sounds awesome. And again, we get closer and closer to, I'm just repeating.
I think we're repeating like, hey, guess what? Streaming services are into live these days. But I did find it shed a little more light on them saying, it's the community aspect, it's the front row experience, it's the special effect. And I really do think that these streaming platforms are going to be pushing their live perks at you. NBC is going to do it on Peacock with the Olympics. Netflix has got NFL coming. Amazon is going to do these music things. We're probably going to see more music things. Netflix also has comedy. HBO through Max has comedy. So get ready for the onslaught of like, hey, you want the best live stuff? Come to our platform. We've got it.
Yeah.
Ad company Google is expanding its offering to include ad placement on Google TV-powered streaming boxes and smart TVs. The Google TV network will let companies buy unstoppable video ads on more than 125 live streaming TV channels. Google says viewers of its free ad-supported TV channels or FAST channels watch an average of 75 minutes per day. So yeah, I mean, when you're the biggest ad company in the world, makes sense that you also own an operating system that has free ad-supported channels. You'd sell ads there.
Yeah, and this isn't going to intrude on anything where there's an expectation of an ad-free experience, right?
It possibly, I know I'm always looking on the bright side, but possibly will make it less annoying if they're selling more ads. You won't just keep getting that, spick and span ad over and over and over again while you're watching a show.
That has been one of the strangest things. For 15 years, we've been doing this show, and it's always confused me that online ads have been treated, I guess, less so now as second rate. But given the fact that they're so targeted, you have rich data.
Yeah,
you precisely nail it. I just don't understand. But of course, the system was always how many people are watching concurrently live. Super Bowl, $1 million, easy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think as we see more people move into the space with their advertising, you see that kind of stuff fall away. It's a matter of scale. When there's not enough scale, more often you're likely to have an edge case where you're getting a repeated ad, even if that's not optimal.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the chatter.
You've got mail.
Or as they say in France, le chatter. Cordkillers episode 504 has ads, writes Doug McCone. No, this isn't a repeat email. This is a different email from someone noticing that the public feed now has ads. Doug says there's one at the top of the show and another one after the Patreon pitch. I assume this is a mistake. What is going on? If we, at the risk of repeating ourselves, we put ads on the public feed and there's no ads on the Patreon feed, and you can get an RSS feed on the Patreon feed. So if you don't want ads in your feed, that's the option that you can have now.
And if we could, Tom, let me put you over here. As your co-host, that's a good stick. Let's give some carry here. Let's talk about our ongoing commitment to making the Patreon experience more of an inside cool kids club, and the fact that having Amos running everything means that we're able to do more bonus content, and that's part of the reason that we want this show to get better and better and better. We've been doing it long enough, and we're good enough, and gosh darn it, we deserve some ad money. We made what? Can we publicly reveal our first ad take? Our massive haul.
No, that is a great idea. Here, I'm pulling it up right now. I've got the monthly Acast statement. I'll open
Ladies
this
and
up.
gentlemen, breaking news.
Yeah, Android Faithful, Apple Vision Show. There it is. Cordkillers, all audio.
So far,
in the service of transparency, we have pulled in $4.48.
Yeah.
Take that, corporations. Well, I think it was like 2 days worth of ads too, because we only turned them on at the very end of last month. So, but yes, thank you for understanding that we really do want to continue to improve on this and make it better. And we prefer your direct support. We get a lot more money, as you can tell, from the direct support. So thank you for supporting us at patreon.com/cordkillers. And also, that's the only email we got that wasn't a story for the show this week, right?
We did get a lot of the stories got integrated in here. We always appreciate you guys giving us a heads up. We always appreciate you recommending content to us. But when we get to this portion of the program, what we really love are thought-provoking questions, observations, rebuttals. We love when you tell us that we're wrong and we get to tell you're wrong back, or we get to say, oh wait, yeah, you're right. So hit us up at cordkillers@gmail.com. We really do read every single one of those, and we try to integrate as many as we can.
What Brian's trying to say, if loving you is wrong, we don't want to be right.
That's right.
Also, Ambassador Domo pointed out that the King of Prussia and Dallas malls are not the largest in the U.S., but they're in the top 10. And so it looks like, if they did need to move locations, they would target other top 10 locations, possibly Mall of America, Minnesota.
Yep.
Says Ambassador. Thank you, Ambassador Domo. And thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We are live on twitch.tv/Night Attack Mondays, usually, although it was Wednesday this week, at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Reckon we'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.